I'm Craig Brailsford. Welcome to another episode of Small Stocks, Big Money. For those of you new to the show, RedChip is an investor relations, media, and research firm focused on emerging growth companies. Our unique platform combines global multimedia with traditional investor relations, reaching investors around the world. Now, today's show features interviews with the executives of two public companies. First up is NioCorp Developments. NioCorp is developing the Elk Creek project that is expected to produce niobium, scandium, and titanium. The company also is evaluating the potential to produce several rare earths from the Elk Creek project. Niobium is used to produce specialty alloys as well as high-strength, low-alloy steel, which is a lighter, stronger steel used in automotive, structural, and pipeline applications. Magnetic rare earths are critical to a wide variety of defense and civilian applications. We'll learn more when we speak with the CEO later in the show. Up next is Atossa Therapeutics. Atossa Therapeutics is a clinical-stage biopharmaceutical company advancing Z-endoxifen, a next-generation selective estrogen receptor modulator, or SERM, with best-in-class potential across the breast cancer treatment spectrum. The company is strategically prioritizing metastatic breast cancer, where Z-endoxifen has shown encouraging clinical activity, favorable tolerability, and the potential to address endocrine resistance through dual targeting of ER-alpha and PKC-beta-1. With multiple phase 2 trials completed, a proprietary oral formulation, and a strong intellectual property portfolio, Atossa is positioned to deliver meaningful therapeutic innovation and create long-term value for patients and investors alike. We'll learn more when we speak with the CEO later in the show. Before we move forward, let's take a look at RedChat, a revolutionary AI chatbot for small-cap stock analysis.
A new era of small-cap research has arrived with RedChip's RedChat, the fastest, most accurate AI assistant for small caps. The days of spending hours sifting through press releases, 10Ks, 10Qs, 8Ks, 13Fs, 13Gs, and other filings is over. Now, get answers in seconds on 4,000 small-cap stocks in one portal. Simple, fast, accurate, detailed answers. Meet small caps with RedChat.
Now, let's move on to our quote of the week. It comes from the book, Small Stocks, Big Money. The single most important way we attempt to manage risk in any environment is by seeking to buy stocks very cheaply. We never want to pay too much. This quote comes from Bill Hench of Royce Opportunity Funds, and it is featured in Chapter 3 of Small Stocks, Big Money, a book of exclusive interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon today for just $18. Now, let's get started with our first interview today with NioCorp Developments. Hello, today we have Mark Smith, the CEO of NioCorp, trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol NB. Mark, great to have you today.
Craig, thank you for having us. We're just thrilled to be here.
NioCorp recently announced a $10 million award from the U.S. Department of Defense via the Defense Production Act. Mark, can you please provide an overview of what this agreement entails and what it means for the Elk Creek project?
With pleasure, I might add. First of all, I'd like to thank President Trump, Vice President Vance, and the White House National Security Team, the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Defense, the Pentagon's Title III team, and last but not least, our entire congressional support out of Nebraska, including Senators Fisher and Ricketts and the entire Nebraska House delegation. Without their help, this would have been a very, very steep hill to climb. So we're just pleased that they all provided such strong support in this effort. The whole grant that we received from the Department of Defense has to do with scandium. Scandium is one of those very unique minerals in the world that a lot of people haven't heard of, and it has almost magical capabilities, particularly when it's used in electronics or when it's alloyed with aluminum, and we can make a stronger, a lighter, a more corrosion resistant, and a weldable alloy. The the effort that we're undertaking, that's being sponsored by and funded by the Department of Defense, will allow us to completely update our feasibility study, which then allows us to move forward very rapidly with our XM, or U.S. Export Import Bank loan. And this is another beautiful thing, I think, about this process with the DoD grant. This is the whole of government working together right now, where the Department of Defense and the U.S. Export Import Bank both want this project to move forward. They're working together to make it happen. And that is really a wonderful attribute of this whole grant that we've gotten, is that we can sit here as citizens of the United States and know that we have a whole of government action taking place with Elk Creek Resources. So we're just thrilled to death to announce this, and we can't wait to finish our feasibility study update, which would be the latter part of this calendar year.
Now, this support from the Department of Defense, which you have so enthusiastically explained, how does it accelerate your efforts to establish that vertically integrated scandium mine to master alloy supply chain here in the United States?
Well, first of all, it will allow the project financing for the mine and the above ground processing facility to occur much faster. Once that financing is secured, we have all of our permits in hand, Craig. We don't have to go through any permitting nightmare with this project. We have all of our permits in hand. We have ubiquitous support from the local community and the state of Nebraska. So once the financing is done, we will be on our way, starting construction and building this project. But it's because of this DoD grant that we will have the money that we want to update that feasibility study and put it in a position that the U.S. Export Import Bank will be ready to act on.
Now, scandium, Mark, you just said that it's not very well known, but it is extremely important, strategically important to the Department of Defense. How could domestic production at Elk Creek impact U.S. national security and defense readiness?
Well, that's it's a very good question, Craig, and a simple one for me to answer. Guess which nation in the world largely controls all of the scandium production in the world today? Well, that's China. And this just, points out yet another very glaring national security risk that we have related to scandium, in that we do not produce any here in the United States. We import 100% of what we need in the United States. And the good news here with the Elk Creek mine, once it's constructed and once the operations are up and running and we're producing scandium, we could become the Saudi Arabia of scandium. That's how big this mine is. This one mine, the Elk Creek mine, can produce more scandium than what is produced in the entire world today. We could become the scandium superpower of the world. That's how important this project is.
Not only scandium, but also ferroniobium, we want to talk about a little bit, Mark. You've got binding offtakes in place for the majority of your planned ferroniobium and, of course, scandium production. You have a rare earth term sheet with Stellantis. How do these partnerships position NioCorp competitively and help de risk that path to production?
Offtake is just critically important to finalizing any type of project financing, particularly on the debt side of the equation. These offtake agreements provide the confidence that the lenders need to have when they're going to lend you this amount of money. I mean, the United States Export Import Bank is talking about loaning us almost $800 million. Agencies, banks, nobody in the world wants to lend that kind of money unless you have a very high degree of confidence of the company's ability to repay that loan. Having those offtake agreements in place really provides the confidence that they're looking for, and we are extremely focused on finalizing the rest of the offtake agreements for all of our products.
Now, Mark, as you alluded to a moment ago, your financing efforts have been gaining momentum, including a potential $800 million facility with the Export Import Bank of the United States, as well as expressions of interest from the United Kingdom Export Finance and the German government. How are these funding tracks progressing, and what is the timeline to a final investment decision?
They're all progressing very well, Craig, and this is a lot of effort. I mean, you have to go through a full risk analysis, full due diligence of the entire project, permitting, environmental issues. It is a very long and drawn out process, and rightly so. I mean, this is taxpayers' money that we will be using for loan purposes, and I want to make sure that the United States government issues the best loan possible with the lowest risk possible. So we encourage all of the due diligence and all of the communications that have been occurring. We are currently probably at about step 2.5 in a four-step process to finalize that loan package. And by the way, step 3 to 4 is a very short, probably 30 to 45 day period. So it's the very shortest part. So you can now see we are a long ways into the loan process with the Export-Import Bank of the United States. They will be the lead agency or the lead bank on the loan. The United Kingdom Export Finance and the German government loan guarantee programs they'll have the same level of security, but they'll have smaller portions of the overall loan pie. Having all three agencies may sound complicated, but it actually allows each of the three agencies to maybe rest a little bit more and be a little bit more confident in the overall project because they're each assuming less total risk at the end of the day. They're assuming their piece of the risk of the total loan pie. So that's also got all three of these entities very engaged in the process with us and much more comfortable about the total amount of the loan package. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here, Craig, and I think that hopefully sometime around the end of this year or very early part of 2026, we will be done with the loan process and be able to finalize our equity piece of the project financing and start construction. That's what it's all about.
Final question, Mark. What other milestones should investors keep an eye on in the coming months? And of course, what is the core value proposition for NioCorp today?
The milestones that people can expect, we've been pretty vocal about in the last 2 to 3 weeks, especially as we finished up a $45 million fundraising effort in July and set a press release out saying this is precisely how we're going to spend the $45 million that we just raised. And it's all about advancing the project. So we're going to do things like purchase more property. We just announced this morning that we had closed on the next parcel of property last Friday. More to come on that. There's more parcels that we're interested in. We love being project owners as opposed to project renters, as I like to describe it. So owning the property is big. The DoD grant, that's going to be a very big newsworthy item for us. That's been announced by the time this shows, and we're going to be very proud of that and happy to explain to our shareholders how that's the best form of financing anyone can get because it doesn't dilute and you don't have to pay it back. Um, we're going to do additional offtake agreements. Those should be coming here in the near future. As we get the offtake agreements in place, that allows the government banks to further the loan process with us. But there's some other things too. The feasibility study update. We're going to have drilling results. We're doing some infill drilling to raise the reserve category from probable to proven. As those drill results come out, we're going to report those so our shareholders can see just how good this ore body is. This is really a fantastic ore body, and we're proud to provide more data on it. We'll also be providing updates to our CapEx estimates, to our economic model to show that the project with new products is going to become even more economically robust. But another item that I was thinking about too that I'm happy to talk about, and you mentioned just a moment ago, Craig, we're going to be providing more and more information on our desire to build a full supply chain here in America that takes us from mining scandium to actually making parts that contain scandium in them. So we'll be taking the ore, turning it into scandium oxide. We'll turn the scandium oxide into master alloy. We'll add it to additional aluminum to lower the amount of ultimate scandium in the product. And we want to make actual parts that will be used by our military, by our commercial partners. So this is going to be a whole build out of the scandium supply chain from mine to parts. So this is going to be a very big change for the United States. It's never existed in the nation, it needs to exist in the nation. We're currently importing 100% of what we need for scandium. So this is going to change the way that we can negotiate trade agreements with China and other countries as a result. This is a very, very important aspect of our project.
Very powerful stuff, Mark. You've given us so much to look forward to. Great having you here today.
Thanks for having us, Craig. We look forward to telling the story as many times as we can. Thank you.
Now, to get more information on NioCorp Developments, visit niocorpinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free, and you can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com, featuring emerging growth companies like NioCorp. Now, let's move on to our next interview today with Atossa Therapeutics. Hello, we're here today with Dr. Stephen Quay, who is the CEO of Atossa Therapeutics, trading on the NASDAQ under the symbol ATOS. Stephen, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Let's start with the big picture. You're developing Z-endoxifen, which has shown best-in-class potential across the breast cancer treatment paradigm. What sets this apart from current treatment options?
Pretty simple. You get the way to you best in class is you do two things to the cancer, not one. So all of the other endocrine therapies block estrogen binding. Endoxifen does that, and then in addition, it causes the cell to commit suicide. That's its double punch that works so well.
Metastatic breast cancer, that's your lead focus. Now, can you explain what makes this such a high need area and why Atossa chose it as its first indication?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. If you can get the breast cancer when it's still in the breast, it is curable in almost all cases. But once it's metastatic, which by definition means it's somewhere in the body, typically in the bones, sometimes in the brain, you're in a very different space where you're trying to give the person as much quality of life as you can, but you're probably not going to cure it. This is a really high need, and we believe this double function of endoxifen, of being able to hit estrogen and cause the cells to commit suicide, is going to really help these women extend the life, extend the quality of life, and that's really important.
Now, Stephen, you're also developing endoxifen for breast cancer prevention and earlier stage treatment. What's the opportunity there, and what has the Charisma study shown so far?
Well, look at um, to prevent a disease like breast cancer would be phenomenal. Women would never have to worry about it. Even though we're curing women with cancer that's inside the breast, there's still, a lot of trauma and the like. So being able to identify women who are going to get breast cancer in the next 4, 5, 6 years, and then treat them with a drug that's not much different than a sugar pill. That is, its side effects are very similar there. Would be game changing. Every minute that we're having this interview, a woman's being diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States, and so we would be able to stop maybe 100 to 125,000 women from getting breast cancer.
Now, what is the status of your current clinical development programs, and what are the key upcoming milestones investors should be watching for in this year, 2025, and beyond?
Yeah. So we announced the first half of this year was focusing on what we needed to do to get the drug prepared for a registration trial for FDA approval. That's when we announced the metastatic route. We're working with the FDA. We're working with contract research organizations. This will be an international study. When we're up and running 24/7 somewhere in the world, people will be looking at going into this clinical trial. So that's been a focus in the first half of the year. But we still have very important ongoing trials in what's called the neoadjuvant setting, which is between first diagnosis and surgery, a 4 to 6 month window of time, in both monotherapy and in combination with Lilly's, top drug, abemaciclib. So there'll be a lot of reporting, both in scientific meetings and as we go along here on FDA path, CRO recruitment, and the clinical trials themselves.
Turning to finances, you recently reported having more than $65 million in cash and zero debt. How does that position you for the road ahead?
Well, we're we're in the top 20 or 10% of all biotech companies that have 2 years worth of runway. Clearly, these trials that we'll be doing in 2026 will cost more, but for now, we're in a very good financial position. And again, not having debt gets back to my Scottish heritage where, you don't want to have debt if you can help it.
Now, in summary, what is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Atossa today?
Because by the end of this year, we intend to have our first patient in the trial that we will be doing to lead to registration, to lead to FDA approval. And so the next 6 months are going to be a lot of work inside the company. But as we report that out, we'll be in a different space with respect to the community of biotech companies, again, with a lot of cash in our balance sheet. So this is the time to get in at the prices that we're at.
It is an attractive story indeed, Stephen. Thank you for sharing Atossa's story with us today.
Glad to be here.
Now, to get more information on Atossa Therapeutics, visit atosinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free, and you can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com, featuring emerging growth companies like Atossa Therapeutics. Watch this show again and explore hundreds of small-cap stock videos on RedChip's YouTube channel. Also, go to our website and sign up on our events page for the webinar series. We have webinars every week, several a week, in which we feature small public companies, mostly our client companies, and you'll hear straight from the CEO, and you'll be able to ask questions after that. Again, visit redchip.com and subscribe today. In addition to our newsletter, you can order Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book written by RedChip CEO, featuring interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon for $18. Now, let's recap the companies featured today. First, you met NioCorp Developments, NB, on the NASDAQ. NioCorp is developing the Elk Creek project that is expected to produce niobium, scandium, and titanium. The company also is evaluating the potential to produce several rare earths from the Elk Creek project. Niobium is used to produce specialty alloys as well as high-strength, low-alloy steel, which is a lighter, stronger steel used in automotive, structural, and pipeline applications. Magnetic rare earths are critical to a wide variety of defense and civilian applications. Learn more at www.niocorpinfo.com. Then you met Atossa Therapeutics Incorporated, ATOS, on the NASDAQ. Atossa Therapeutics is a clinical-stage biopharmaceutical company advancing Z-endoxifen, a next-generation selective estrogen receptor modulator, or SERM, with best-in-class potential across the breast cancer treatment spectrum. The company is strategically prioritizing metastatic breast cancer, where Z-endoxifen has shown encouraging clinical activity, favorable tolerability, and the potential to address endocrine resistance through dual targeting of ER-alpha and PKC beta-1. With multiple phase 2 trials completed, a proprietary oral formulation, and a strong intellectual property portfolio, Atossa is positioned to deliver meaningful therapeutic innovation and create long-term value for patients and investors alike. Learn more at www.atosinfo.com. Don't forget to check out our stocks page. It is the biggest small-cap stock portal in the industry. It has every company listed on the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange with market caps of $2 billion and less. And it's categorized by industries. Watch this show again and explore hundreds of small-cap stock videos on RedChip's YouTube channel. And be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter and learn about a lot of small-cap companies. Also, go to our website and sign up on our events page for the webinar series. We have webinars every week, several a week, in which we feature small public companies, mostly our client companies, and you'll hear straight from the CEO, and you'll be able to ask questions after that. Again, if you have any questions about any of our public companies featured on today's show, call us at 1-800-RedChip or email us at info@redchip.com. In closing, remember, while small caps can provide significant gains, you must be prepared for the downside. Small cap stocks are among the most volatile of asset classes. Some of the companies featured on this show are RedChip client companies, and we may own stock in these companies. So please, always read our disclosures at redchip.com. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week with some new, exciting emerging growth companies.